Okay, so we started, last time we ended with a database that had data in it. So let's go back to that, starting access, going to the AC1 veterinarian file, enabling content, and I see that I have my two tables there. Let's review what we have in those two tables as we bring in more data. I can just double click on any table to open it and see what's in it. The default view is datasheet view. Default view is datasheet view. If I want to see the design of that, remember I can toggle to design view by clicking design view. And I can see that the owner ID is the primary key that has a little primary key. And I have a little comment there describing what that means. It's a unique reference to the owner. Everything else in my table I see is all short text. Now later on we're going to be modifying this table. Anytime that I want to, I could add another field. Let's add another field and let's call it their balance. Account balance. Let's call it account balance. Now we're going to be doing more of this in the next one, but just to show you, I could add another field, and what kind of data should that be? Should that be short text? Well, it could be short text, but it's better to be currency. That will let me do things like in Excel. I can do calculations on it if I have it of a data type currency. Without having a data type currency, Access has a lot harder time treating it as a number. With Excel, we could throw a number in a cell and it didn't care. In Access, if we need to tell it what's there, treat it as a number. And now I can go back to datasheet view after saving that change, and I can see that there is no account balance listed because I didn't make that a required field. And I don't have any program that's filling in a value there. Many times we might want to have space for data but not have the data available, and those fields would be optional. In our case, we filled in every field except I've let account balance blank. If I want to put a number in there, 123, it'll be happy with that. Watch what happens if I try to put a non-number. Let's try Emmaus. Oh, sorry. There can only be numbers put in here. This is controlling that field so someone can't accidentally enter the bad numbers. Again, Excel lets you enter crazy things and you get pound signs or error messages. Control Z will let me undo that change and leave it back as a number. So this is where we're starting to show we can have some control over how data gets entered. Remember, we have already put in some control that they can't enter more than a two-letter state, but it doesn't mean we can't leave the state blank and so we can't mail them anything. Unless, of course, the post office can figure it out from the zip code. It's not requiring that there be a state, and it's not requiring that I don't put in a state that doesn't mean anything. It's not checking that I'm entering the right state. It's just limiting it to 2 characters. And the same with the ID. That's limited to 5 characters, but that's going to be an important number as I refer to this data in this table. I can close that. I had adjusted things, so I'm going to click Save Changes. Same with patients. I can view the data in there. I can view the design of the data. See that patient ID is the primary key. Owner ID is referring to the owner in an ID in another table. I put that in my comments just for someone else looking at my database could understand why I have that field in there. Those that work with databases all the time, all this information makes perfect sense. Oh yeah, I refer to the owner. That's related to another table. Now, before we start building queries and forms and reports, we would like to get more data. We could go through the whole setup of creating fields and giving a table a name, but that work has been done for us, and we just want to bring the data in along with the table to our current database. So here's what we want to do. We want to go over to to Schoology, emmaus.schoology.com, go to this course, and go to the Either in the syllabus there's a link to data files, but I was a little nicer to you. I gave a link to the data files in the textbook right here. That takes you here to the, if you wait for it, to the companion site for the textbook. I click on data files and I get a document showing me that the link to the Access data files are right there in that link. So data files, textbook resources data files here, link, takes me here, click on data files here, open the PDF, and these are the files I want to download. So I click on that, and it will download the zip files of Module 1. These are the data, this is the data we're going to be importing into our Access database. Anyone need that reviewed, how we got that? Data files here, data files on that link, open the PDF, and go down to the Access section in data files, and then that will go down to your downloads folder, and I can go here and see my downloads, and I can go to the folder where it got downloaded to by clicking there, and then I can extract that data by right click, extract all. They have to be extracted in order for Access to be able to see the files. So I have to extract from the zip, and I'm going to go ahead and show the extracted files when it's done extracting. Pops up a little window. There's what got extracted. 3 folders. The first one is what I care about for this project. I open that up, and I see there's 4 databases in there. The only one that I'm going to use is the VETS extra tables. These others are for extra projects at the end of the chapter. We're going to be getting that data. We don't worry about opening that. We're going to import from that. I could open that just to see what's in there, and I just see it has 3 tables in there. I'm going to close it though, because I'm going to bring that data into my AC1 database. Here's how we do that now. Everyone find the table, find that database, got them extracted? Okay, here we go now. We're going to now go external data, new data source, from database this time. And while we're here, notice you could actually get data from online data sources. That is really powerful. But we're not going to do that from an online source because that gets complex too. We're going to bring it in from an existing database. Happens to be an Access database, not these other kinds of databases. Those are really exciting too. The Access database. And now I have to go find that Access database I want to import from. And that's where I click the Browse button to go browse, guess where? To the downloads that I just downloaded and extracted from my modules down into the Module 1 data. And there's the Extra VETS support, VETS extra tables database. That's the database I want to import from. I select that, double click, and now I have the choice. Do I want to import the data, or do I want to link to the data? Link to the data is pretty cool if I have a huge database that I don't want to make another copy of and waste space, and I want to let someone else edit the data in that table and just link to it. But the dangerous thing is I don't have a link to that if I send it somewhere else, like upload it to Schoology. So you need to import the data into your database so it's all there together. Another dangerous thing about links is if that file ever got moved, the link is broken. So links are cool but dangerous. We're going to import the data into our table, into the tables into our database. So now I click OK. And now it gives me the choice of what from that database I want to import. Notice I could actually import macros and reports and forms and queries. They don't have any queries. They only have tables in that database. And I want all of them, so I'm going to do a select all. And then I click OK. And what's going to happen, it's going to import those tables, the structure, and the data in them into my database. I won't see them here until I click close. And now, look at that. I've got 3 additional tables added to my database without doing any of the work of designing the tables or entering the data. Let's explore what we just got pulled over or imported. Let's first of all start in the appointments table. Click on that, and I see, sort of makes sense, I have an appointment ID, and then referring to a patient, a date, a time, some treatment, the veterinarian, and an owner. So a lot of links to information, but notice I'm referring to a patient by their ID. I'm referring to a treatment number by its ID, the veterinarian by their ID, and the owner by their ID. So this table relates to all these other tables. So this is I'll call this a central part of my business. This table is linking the information from all these other tables, gathering the information up, so I don't retype their name, I just refer to them by their ID. Now I better be referring to existing veterinarians or this data makes no sense whatsoever. So let's close the appointments table and let's take a look at the treatment or the veterinarians table. Look at that. I do have a veterinarian B0, is that a 0 or O? B01, G01, and their information. And the treatment cost, there I have treatment numbers. I think that's a better name for that field would be treatment description, and then an animal type and a cost for that treatment. And then of course patients already have their patient ID and their owner ID. So we're seeing already relationships between these tables. Let's go back and let's take a look at the appointments table, because that's kind of a key table showing us how databases work. I'm going to right click on appointments, design view. And now let's walk through what we've just imported. This is our primary key. I can tell it's the primary key to this table. It has a little key there in that top field. Oh, look at that. We're not adding a number. We're letting Access automatically assign a number to that, where we've been using short text. Notice here for appointment date and appointment time, they have a data type of date and time, and everything else is short text. These are very important fields. This is referring to the veterinarian, and it should have been named veterinarian ID. They kind of were inconsistent, where here they're referring to a patient in the patients table. They use patient ID. That's very helpful, makes it very clear that that's the ID of the patient in that patient's table. Here, veterinarian, it should have been called veterinarian ID, but I'm just going to add to the comments. I'll call it a key, or some call it foreign key, because it's a link, foreign key / link or relation to veterinarian table. And the owner ID, that should have been given the name owner ID to avoid confusion, but that's a link to the owner, also known as a foreign key or relationship in the owner's table. So how these tables are related to one another is where databases really are a huge advantage over an Excel spreadsheet, where you're going to be referring to an owner and you may have a separate spreadsheet of their owners, but to keep them linked together and related, that's a lot harder to do in an Excel spreadsheet. In databases, we can efficiently store the data and extract or access the data because it's carefully related in concise, efficient tables. So I can pull out data, and I also don't waste space storing data. That's the key to databases: storing and retrieving data at high speed, very accurately, and efficiently. And I can view the data, verifying that I am referring to existing owners. We're going to see that in our databases, we can actually make sure that they don't accidentally type in an owner or veterinarian or patient that does not exist when they make an appointment. That's another super important thing about databases, because these relationships are important. We have to make sure that they work correctly. So I have the data. I can always view the data just by clicking and viewing the data. If I want to view it in a different manner, this is where forms come in. So the next thing we're going to do after bringing in those tables is now to add a form, a query, and a report. So let's go to where we're going to create a form. There is a 3-click method and there is the wizard method. Looks like they're creating a query first. Okay, we'll do the query first. So to create something, can you guess? It's the query tab, or create tab. And the first thing listed is, after creating a table, which we've done already, is to create a query. We're going to learn how to use query design, but we're going to start with the wizard. We're going to let the wizard help us in the creating of a query. Now, since the owner's table is selected, when I go to the query wizard and I choose the simple query wizard, it already has the table owner selected because I had it selected when I started the query wizard. If you wanted to query from a different table, you could simply tell it which table you want to get information queried. So I'm still going to choose the owner's table. Now, in a query, I don't want to view all the data in the table. I only want to view the owner's first name. So I check owner's first name and I click put that in my selected fields. Another way to do that is just double click on that item and it pops over to the selected field side. So I want to list their first and last name and their street, double click, cities, double click, state, double click, and I think I also want, the last thing I want is their zip code. Yes, double click zip code. I don't care to see their phone or at email or what their balance is. This is a way of viewing, selecting specific data that's in a table. Now in the next project, AC2, we're going to be actually putting criteria in what we view. In this case, we're just selecting and viewing all the first, last names, streets, city, states of every owner. I click next. I decide to give that a name, and I'm going to add to that name, instead of just the name of the table, I'm going to add AC1-30 to the end of my name of my query, AC1-30, just so I can remember what page in the textbook they were giving those instructions, in case I want to review how we did that. And I click finish, and now it looks like I just have a table, but notice I only have this information that I asked it to give me. I don't have their phone number or emails listed in this query. So a query is like a peek at part of the data. I can always go back to query design and see how that was created, and that's what we're going to be doing in the next section. How that, actually I can right click design view. I can see how this query was created in design view. You're going to be learning how to do this in the next project. But that's what the wizard did for us. It created a query of the data in the owner's table, selecting, extracting, or displaying just the specific columns that I asked it to give me. And that's the result of that query. Now it's not a whole lot different than just viewing the owner's table itself by just double clicking the owners, and my cursor just stopped working. I can just as well view all the data in the owner's table. So at this point we have such a simple query, I could just as well just view the owner's table. But queries give me a little bit more control over what I'm viewing. And in the next chapter we'll see there's a lot more things I can do with the queries. Okay, so that query is done. I can close it. If I ever want to see it again, I can just double click and see the results that that query produces in the select statement. For the nerds view, if you're interested at all in the nerdy view of this, you can actually view the database language that it is generating for you when you are doing this. This is the only way people used to interact with databases. They had to learn this language and learn the select command in order to get data viewed from a database. They thought, you know, maybe that's hard for regular people to understand. Let's build a program that tries to make this more friendly. And that's what Axis is doing. Instead of you having to learn SQL language, which we do in our advanced database class, how to pull data from databases, it's giving you a friendly program. So there's your first query. Querying data from our owners table. Now I think we're only creating the one query. Let's verify that. Yeah, so then we use it. We can always just open that query by double clicking on it and seeing the results. Okay, now that was the first thing we can create. We can create queries. The next thing we're going to do is create forms that allow us, if we hover over that, does it give us an explanation of what a form is? That lets you enter information one record at a time. I also call it user-friendly method of entering data into a database. And let's see how that works now. 3-click method. You have to decide what table do you want to have a form for. So we just choose the owners table again. 1 click, click the create, and then click form. Don't even have to click the form wizard, just create form, and that's like the default settings. And I get a form that lets me view that first row of data in a large form. And of course, the design of this form isn't the greatest. It's lost a lot of wasted space, but I can view one row at a time and navigate using this tiny little navigation bar at the bottom, forward and backward, and back to the beginning. One row at a time, I can view the data for each of my owners. And I can even go to the end of the table and enter new data for that table. If I am viewing form view, I can actually enter new data in form view. There's layout view and there's form view. Layout view, I'm not actually entering data. I can view it. Form view, I can actually edit the data in my table, one row at a time. Now, a time where this is more useful is where you actually have maybe a picture of your owner, maybe a picture of their pets, and one at a time you can view through that. And you could even have a picture of, or a entry for notes about that owner, or attached documents. One owner at a time. So when you're dealing with details of each record, the form view is very handy. Thing for you to remember is how to create that form. I'm going to click Save Changes. I'm going to give it the name Owners, and what page are we on? We're on page AC 1-33. We'll give it the name Owners and then AC 1-33. And since it's a form, watch where it goes when I click Save As and click OK. It gets saved in a separate Forms section in my database, because by default these things are sorted by category. So now I know how to create forms and queries. If I ever want to open a form again, I just double click the form and I have the form view, and I can actually edit the data in my table one row at a time. Now you're an expert at databases now. You know that you could always just go to your owners table and edit the data right there. But this is not as user-friendly and could be kind of scary, and it's letting the user enter and edit any field whatsoever. That can be dangerous when you only want them perhaps checking the addresses. In a form, you can actually set certain fields to be the only ones that can be changed. Like, you can't change their name or their ID, but only can change their address. And everything else you can view but not change. That's something that can be done in designing the form. And that's in the advanced class, where you can have detailed modifications of the form. For you, all you need to worry about is, if I want a form on the patients table, click once, click Create, click Form, and I have a form of my patients. They're so easy to create that many people that use databases don't even save them. They just close it and say, yeah, no, I don't need to save it. I know how to create a form. Choose the table, choose Create, and a form, and I can edit the data by viewing Form View. And I've never had to worry about saving the form. If you spend a lot of time designing the form, that's when you might want to save it. But otherwise, it's 3-click. Speaking of 3 clicks, I can do similar with reports. This time, though, since reports are a little bit more complicated, we're going to do a report wizard. So I'm going to go to the Create tab, and the table we want to use a report of, again, is going to be our owners table. So we're familiar with building a query and a form on the owners table. Let's see how we could create a report on the owners table. Now I can be lazy and just do create and report, and I actually get a report of every column in that table and every piece of information. Maybe I didn't want to report on everything. I'm going to close that, not save it. Let's do that again. This time, let's use the report wizard to give us specific information in the format that I want. Just like we use the query builder, we're going to use the report wizard and just see what's available to us. Oh, just like in the query wizard, I can choose what table I want, and now I'm going to choose what fields to go in my report. Someone says, I need a listing of all the owners. Okay. Do you want their owner ID? No, I don't care about that. Do you want their phone number? No, I just want their name and their address. So we can mail them a thank you card or a coupon or our newsletter, hard copy. So I choose a table. What fields are going to be in the report? So it's very much like the query so far. Now I click next. Oh, and if I accidentally choose a field, I could start over, send them all back, and bring them back over again in a particular order. Now I click next, and now I get to choose how would I like them grouped. I could group them by the street they live on, or it might make more sense to group them by state. So have the state, and then within each state have the owners by state. And since I only have 2 owners right now, it's going to be a pretty sparse little table. So I'm going to group it by state. And then I can click next. And now I have the choice of, if they're sorted, do I want any type of sorting? Well, I could probably sort them by, let's see, since they're already sorted by state, I could say within the state have them sorted either by last name or by the city they're in. We'll leave them just to be listed in the order that they were entered into the system. Click next, and I can also choose what type of layout I want for my report. We're going to go with stepped, and I think landscape layout makes more sense. And have it fit on a page, which would be a nice thing. And now, before I click finish, I can choose now the names of my report, and that report is on page AC. Yeah, they finalized on page AC1-36. So let's add AC1-36 to that. Okay, just for reference, so I can refer to any other instructions in the textbook. And now I click finish. Remember with these wizards, once you click finish, you're on your own to fix things that didn't go right. And you'll learn how you can design things. But once I click finish, I can't go back. I have to start over. And of course, it's not super complicated. But now when I click finish, it generates a report based on that information. See how it's sorted or grouped by state? I could, and it did fit it to one page for me. And then I can go back to the form view. And if I want to close it, it will ask me, do I want to save changes? Oh, I guess I haven't made any changes. I can always go back to my report, double click, and view it in report view, or I can always go back to layout view if I want to adjust columns. The layout view lets me adjust things in my report, like if I don't want that column as so wide as it is. Why would I need so much space for just a 2-letter state? So I can adjust my reports a little bit in layout view. Let's see if it'll let me adjust my column widths. Oh. Yeah, I'm in layout view. I can also go to design view. That's much more complicated. Don't worry about design view. Remember, all you need to remember is most of the time it's a 3-click method. Say I want to report on appointments. Appointments, create, report. And there's my appointments report. In layout view, I can adjust things. So easy enough to create reports, and I messed it up somehow. If I don't like it, I can close it and start over. Appointments, create, report. So 3 clicks and you have decent reports and There we go. Decent reports. And you can design that. You can adjust their view. And it was supposed to get it to fit on one page. Or I might have skipped that part. So 3 clicks is mainly what you're going to be doing. Choose what you want to report of. Create, report, and you're done. Unless you're told to create something different, the 3-click method is all you need to do. Veterinarians. Report on veterinarians. Veterinarians, create, report. Ugly report, but it gave me something. Okay, so you've created reports and forms and queries. Now suppose I have a database now, and lost my screen there for a second. I just bumped the table and the screen went blank. That's strange. Say I've got a lot of valuable data in here now. I've spent a lot of time on my database. As you use a database more often, and you have a lot of data in it, in the tools section, sometimes we need to manually click compact and repair. Our database so far is tiny compared to databases out there, so our compact and repair hardly takes any time whatsoever. But if, as your data gets more complicated and you have lots of relationships established, the compact and repair might be important. Don't worry about these other things. We will be getting to relationships later. If you want to do a backup of your database, you can always do a file, save as, and you can save it as a older version of Access. If someone has an older copy or older software that only can use it the old format, or you can just save it with a different name in the save as and just call it your backup version of your AC1. For us, we can do a save as AC2 because this is going to be, AC2 is going to be the starting point for our next project, but I better not put it in that strange location. I'm going to browse over to where I have my files on my special location for this course. I'm going to put it in my CS101 folder as my display goes black again. There's a clue there. When I bumped the table when it went dark, so that's telling me it's a possible connection problem. So there I'm saving it as AC2 in my section 2. That can serve as a backup for my database. And what it actually does, it gives it a new name, closes it, and reopens the new name. So it does pop up this yellow bar again to rename the content. And if my display doesn't come back, maybe I just had to keep bumping my table. Look at that, it goes off. Maybe if I bump it again, it'll come back. All right, I think there's a loose cable or bad electronics somewhere. Ooh, could be the cable on this little box here. Let's see. No, it's not doing it. Oh, I did it. That table. I wonder if that cable there. I wiggled this one. That might have just been a coincidence. No, we'll see if we can keep that from happening. It's getting annoying. So what have we done so far? We've created tables, created a query, report, or form and a report. And let's see what else they might want us to do here. I think that's the main thing. All right, so now let's do a little refinement here. Let's go to our appointments table and let's right-click Design View. Let's check our comments, our description. Yeah, that's the appointment ID. That's the primary key in this table. Remember, that's my primary key. Remember what a primary key is. It's required, and it becomes a very important, and it must be unique to every record in my table. If I try to enter the same information but with the same ID, watch what happens. I go to Datasheet View, saving that change to the comment. And let's add another patient. Let's add a, actually, no. Oh, wait a minute. Back in appointments. Oh, look at that. Appointment ID is auto number. I can't change it. That is assigned by Access. I hadn't noticed that before. The appointment ID is assigned by Access. So I can't change it. Watch what happens if I try to change it. Can I edit that? No, it doesn't let me edit that field because it's an auto number, but I could change patient ID. Now, this is where databases could really be broken. I could enter F-2, but do I have an F-2 patient? No, I don't have an F-2 patient. So I could actually break my tables by editing my appointments and change this to a non-existent patient, like F-2. If I do that, and I come to the 30th, waiting around for 10 o'clock for F-2, have all the treatment ready, that patient never appears because that's a non-existing patient. Something else I could do to break this database. I could come here and accidentally put O-3 for the owner of the patient F-1. And that patient F-1 is poor little Fluffy. Poor little Fluffy. If I rename the owner of poor little Fluffy, or the patient, I'm expecting a non-existent owner to come for an appointment for Fluffy. Or even worse, I have Fluffy in for treatment, and there is no owner for Fluffy. And so we send Fluffy away because it's not owned by anyone. They go to the shelter instead of the owner picking them up. The owner comes in that was the true owner and sues us for $1 million because we lost their Fluffy. So in these relationships between tables, they become very important. So important that there's a mechanism in Access to require integrity between the relationships. Let's see, do we have comments on this one? Let's see, owner ID, yeah, must be short text. I had a typo in there. Remember, the type of data in the relationship to the other table has to match. It can't be a number in one table and short text in another table. They won't be able to relate that way. They must be the same type. Well, I think we've done enough here with this first project. We created 2 tables, imported from another project using the external data tool. Remember, in my data source, I could access other types of databases. These are Microsoft-friendly databases. Perhaps from even other sources that have a special format of database, or even cooler, special data services. Now, I'm just going to see if there is a data service that it lists. Oh, I guess it used to actually show immediately. It looks like I have to go through a few more steps to try to actually establish connection to data services. But that would be a cool thing to learn to do, to mess with. I'm not sure how hard it would be to install a new connection or even what a new connection is. But it would be nice to just say, oh, stock prices for companies, and I could link to that and then do some queries about that and decide what to buy today. Okay, so we have saved AC1. We have saved it as, I have saved it as AC2 right now. Let's go then, and you are now ready to upload AC1 to Schoology. And that will be over there in the assignment section. AC1. And just upload it in the submit assignments. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that one for JSmart. Choose the file. Over here at my AC section, make sure I'm in the right folder here, section 2. Add any comments you had. If you had any troubles with anything, feel free to add comments. And that is ready to submit. Now the next thing that's coming is building on those queries that we're going to be gathering extra information or organizing information into nice reports. But we'll be learning how to do queries on our tables. That's going to be the most powerful thing in Access or any database, is those queries. So I'll give you a few minutes to get that uploaded, and then we'll start talking about queries, just to give you a little intro of what's coming. We don't need to get started on AC2, but let's just take a look at what queries are. And let me bring up Firefox. I'm going to run a query. Let's do a query on Bible. When I type Bible and hit enter, and I'm using Chrome, it uses my default search engine. Guess what the query is? Anything with the word Bible in it. And how many hits do you think I'm going to get? It's going to be millions. Let's see how many hits I get. I get, a few million. 1,760,000 results with the word Bible in it. And I got those results in just over half a second. So that's got to be a huge database. When I just search for Bible, it finds information, or maybe it doesn't find the information. It counts how many pieces of information have the word Bible in that. So just imagine what that database is if there are 1 billion results with the word Bible in it. What if I said, it has to have the word Bible in it. I put a plus in there. And it has to have the word, what else? What word would go for? How about Thanksgiving? Thanksgiving. Now, I'm asking for information in Google's database that contains the word Bible and contains the word Thanksgiving. The plus means don't show me results that do not have the word Thanksgiving. Now let's hit enter, and let's see. I'm guessing I'm going to get 500,000 results. Let's see what I get. Ooh, 704 million results still. Let's say I do not want to have the word turkey. Something about Thanksgiving without the word turkey in it. I can put minus turkey in my query. I hit enter, and Google runs a query of their huge database of anything with I think they're looking for keywords in the title or perhaps even the text of the search. And let's see. Any guess on the results? I'm thinking it's going to be under a million. Let's see. Still 36 million, but the results are getting. Oh, wait a minute here. It actually didn't find any for the minus turkey. I didn't realize that. Let's go back here. Did I get? Okay, so if I do a minus turkey, that's interesting. It doesn't get any results. Why would that be? I would expect there'd be something that did not have the word turkey in it. Huh. So they said, well, it'd give me alternate results. At least only 36 million results. But the point is, given this terminology, Google is running a query against their humongous database, very efficiently finding information because of the way their database is designed. Now, it's way beyond the capabilities of Access because they have such a huge database. But it's the same kind of principles. They have data stored in an organized fashion, and when somebody looks for data, they return results very quickly and even have autocomplete with all sorts of information. And remember, I can actually put quotes around phrases that I'm expecting to find in my result. If I put quotes around it, the query that gets generated is slightly different. So you are querying Google's database, but when you give it your keywords in your search, they are generating a query, and that's what we'll be doing on beginning Friday, is producing queries about our tiny little database. But think in your mind, queries are the power of databases. Huge amounts of data. I can find the data I need if I properly structure a query on that database table. All right, so we have AC2 ready to start with on Friday. Upload AC1, and we will see you. And this recording is going online in case you need to review anything.